First of all, many thanks, Panos, for accepting this invitation to chat.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I would obviously like you to introduce yourself and the team you work in and the sport you work in to all the viewers.
So I am Panos Stavropoulos, and I am the performance coach and a movement analyst actually for the Promitheas Patras BC. We're a basketball club in the first division here in Greece, and we got a lot of developmental athletes between the ages of 6 and 18, and I've studied the human performance stuff, and I'm still studying. So we constantly try to evolve, and we constantly try to break new ground. That's why we got into the Omegawave and trying to help our guys get the most out of the training and get the most out of their get the most out of the training actually.
Can you tell us more about the club? Because I read on the internet many good stories about how the club owner has been investing heavily, and you've had really a kind of a rapid ascent to the best division in Greece in basketball. Can you tell us more about the recent history of the club and the ambition behind the management of the club?
All right. We have really many years of history, something like 30, but people have known us for the past something like 5 years because we play in the first division. The last 3 years we play in the first division, and we do a lot of great stuff. We work not as a team but as a family, and our owner, the owner of the club, really invests heavily, as you said, because he is a dreamer. He always likes to take things step further, and we really follow his path, you know. Mm-hmm. And recently we played for the Champions League. We played for the Champions League, and we are in the top 16 teams right now. We played against Tenerife last night. We won by 12, and our goal is to do the best that we can, not only in Europe but in Greece and also in the younger ages.
Right. Can you tell us more about your career path so far? As you said, you're now working for the team, but where do you come from? What's your educational and career path been so far?
Yeah, I've studied the human performance stuff here in Greece, and I've been involved in the strength and conditioning part for boxing, for wrestling, for jiu-jitsu, for kickboxing, and Muay Thai, all those martial arts. I've been involved in soccer. I've been involved in tennis for the last 6 years. And the last 3 years, it's all about basketball training. So I think it's where I'm developing one philosophy for all the athletes, and I think the principles that we're working on are the same for the last 3 years as club for Promitheas.
Okay, so what is that philosophy you've been working on? What does it mean?
All right, this is that we try to get to the athlete and get a holistic approach. We do not see anyone, how can I say it, we're just trying to bear in mind a lot of things when we're training our athletes. When a new athlete comes to the club, we're just trying to discover, to see, to evaluate him in many possible ways, and we're trying to develop his abilities, his physical abilities in the least amount of time and with the least effort. That's where the Omegawave comes into. So actually, the time that we spend at the gym doesn't actually get longer, but it gets shorter. I don't want to say shorter, but it remains constant. So we're trying to get the most out of him with the least amount of effort. So I think this is where the Omegawave comes in.
Right. Kenny, because that's interesting philosophy, but even more interesting oftentimes is understanding how did you arrive to this kind of thinking, meaning what was the journey, what were the learnings or mistakes even you made during your career that have resulted in this philosophy that you now believe in. Could you explore a bit the learnings and mistakes even that you've made in your career?
Yeah, the take-home point is that every athlete has a certain pool to get better or to train. So if a lot of guys listen, when we're talking about younger ages and developmental athletes, we got to bear in mind that they're really busy. So when they wake up at 7 a.m. and they go to school, then they get a practice for something like 3 hours, then they go to study for something like 2 or 3 hours, they got some families, relationships. It's not easy for them to train, and it's not easy for them to be focused. So we needed to manage their stress, the stress factors, and we needed to make sure that when they get into the gym or when they step into the court, they won't just survive the workout, but they will have to get something back. And this is because you can't just train them for 6 hours a day or 7 hours a day. You just need a couple of hours, get the most out of it, and go and recover. So this is where we just needed some assessment tools, and we're not talking about muscle strength, muscle lengths or flexibility issues or speed or stuff. We just needed to know how the athlete feels, and if how they're feeling is actually how they're going to perform. So that's why we ended up creating some assessments and some algorithms that it's more about psychology and not just their bodies. Mm-hmm. But we have concluded that most of the times how a player feels is a lie, because they get into the gym and they feel like crap, but they're having a hell of a workout. And this is where we got interested in your system, the Omegawave.
Yeah. So that's a very interesting topic, the whole subjective feedback versus objective data. Before I ask you more about that, let's just set the scene in terms of the team's data that you collect. So could you tell us what data do you collect, objective, subjective, with what technologies?
All right. So right now we try to develop an algorithm that will reveal the athlete's fatigue, and that's actually what happens in the court and what happens outside the court. And what happens inside the court has its toll on what happens outside the court, and the opposite is true. So we needed to have a three-step approach. So now our number one step, yes, is an subjective monitoring tool, just like all those questionnaires that you might know. So we added up a few questions, a couple of questions that we were interested, just like pain and stuff. And this is how an athlete feels, not how we see him, but how he actually feels, and how all these stressful situations that he's going through in school or in stuff is reflecting on his training or in the court. So this is number one, and we knew that we should have a second step approach that should be ought to be objective. And for us, this is the Omegawave. And actually, it has been going so good that it has developed to a stopper. Or the Omegawave, or whatever the results are a stopper for us. If a guy is, let's say, red with the Omegawave, we stop him. I don't know if he is, and I don't care if he's feeling good, if he's feeling great. But this is a stopper. He won't train.
And when you say stop, do you mean stop all activities, including basketball training, or is it just non-basketball training?
Yeah, it's all activities. He won't train for this particular day. He won't train. He will get a massage. He will get some, stuff um, for relaxing. Yeah, so it's a stopper. He won't do anything. But this is the first thing. If the omega wave tells me that he is good, or something like he's green, he will train and he will actually get an extra individual training, and the intensity and the volume will go up. But if he's normal, just like yellow in the omega wave, then we have an objective measurement that tells me he's not good, he's not ready to go, and then we have a subjective measurement that tells me he's not ready to go, and I have an objective measurement that you can't hit. It's the omega wave, you can't hit it, and now the omega wave tells me that he's ready. He can train. His fatigue levels are normal for the training process that we are into. So I knew that we had to get another approach, another step that should be objective, and we evaluate his counter movement jump and all the metrics that go with it to check if his neuromuscular system is in place. Now, if we have above 15% reduction in some metrics of the counter movement jump, we recognize him that he is fatigued and he won't train. If his counter movement jump is below a 15% reduction, his neuromuscular system is ready to go, and he will train, but he won't get an extra individual training for that day.
Is this counter movement jump testing frequent? Is it daily, or is it just on a need-to basis?
All right, so we test the counter movement jump. Actually, what goes for the counter movement jump goes for the Omegawave 2. We test the Omegawave in the beginning of the microcycle in, let's say, Tuesday, and we test the Omegawave with the Omegawave and the counter movement jump as well, as I told you, and at the end of the microcycle, something like Friday or Saturday. This is because the fatigue levels are at a different level. So we compare the averages. I compared the counter movement jump the average of the counter movement jump of that day with the average of the counter movement jump of the last 2 months. That's how the 15% reduction comes into. The same goes for the Omega Wave, but just for me, just to let me know, getting me to know my athletes better. How normal for each guy is something that I want to know. How can I tell you? I don't know if I explained it right.
Sure. Let me go back to the whole subjective versus objective data on fatigue or readiness. As you know, in team sports, subjective is the one that rules across the globe, partly due to process factors, meaning it's easier to collect compared to objective data when you have multiple athletes and you're busy. Yeah. How do you now, after several months of also incorporating objective data with Omega on a regular basis, how is in your thought process, in your practical programming, how do you balance the information that you collect on both sides?
All right. So the subjective monitoring goes every day. All the guys answer the subjective measurement monitoring every day. But with the Omega Wave, we've created a schedule that each guy knows when he's going to have the measurement. But we never test in the morning. Because guys might have to go to school or might have to get an individual training very early in the morning, and this is a stressful situation for them. So I don't know how accurate the results will be. So I test before training. I've created a room in our brand new facilities that is only for this purpose. We have a room that with couches and stuff that the guys can relax when they go into, and I have the Omega Wave unit there, and every guy knows how to use it. So they get into before training. All the guys, first of all the guys come 40 minutes before their practice. This is because they have to get ready, their body's ready, all their neuromuscular stuff, their balance things. So we got 40 minutes to test some of the guys. And this is the guys that, first of all, they are fatigued in the subjective monitoring tool, and secondly are the guys that are programmed to get measured with the Omegawave. I don't know if did I cover your question?
Well, I kind of wanted to get your thinking into, all right, well, now I have both. I have subjective and I have objective. How do you reach a conclusion? Which one do you weigh or value more, if either one of them, or is it a conclusion of the both? And what's your thought process when you have these two data points, and in terms of how do I program my guys' recovery, training, etc.?
All right. The subjective measurement is something that we measure just to know that the guys are trusting the process, that they are able to follow rules, and they are able to give me back high-level feedback in order to get high-level management from me or from the medical staff. So the Omegawave is our decision point. Now, if a guy is always fatigued in the subjective monitoring tool, this might be considered is always for the last something like 4 days. Is something like it's more psychological stuff. So his stressful situations are more psychological. But if my Omegawave is good for the last 2 weeks or for the last week, my Omegawave measurements are good, then we're gonna have the guy's going to train. The Omegawave is what we trust into, and to tell you the truth, we've been using the Omegawave for the last 6 months, and it never failed us. It never failed us. So when the guys felt like crap for something like 3 or 4 days in a row, I've tested the Omegawave, and then I've tested the Countermovement. But the Omegawave has never failed me, ever. Not a single muscle pull, not a single nothing. We're not talking about major injuries here, just like the ACLs or stuff, but it has never failed us. So if the Omegawave as I told you before, if the subjective monitoring is red, fatigue, and the Omegawave is green, I trust the Omegawave 100%. This is because of the results. It's not about how I view things. It's because the Omegawave has never failed us.
A key difference I see in the sports world is between individual and team sports in terms of how do you communicate with the player or the athlete? How do you get the buy-in for any kind of monitoring? How do you do it in your case? How do you communicate the value of this measurement to the athletes?
Okay, so this is the difficult part, because guys are not used to it. Here in Greece, nobody uses these things, those metrics, just like not even subjective monitoring. I'm not talking about the Omegawave, but not even subjective monitoring is not that sexy. But it's a really nice way to start monitoring your guys. So when the guys arrive at our club, we get a meeting, one by one, an individual meeting with the guys, and I am explaining the process. I'm explaining that this is that you have to get back to me with vital input, so I can get the best treatments for you, or I can get the best training for you. I don't want you to survive the workout. I don't want you to participate in a workout and not get the most out of you or for the team. So this is one of the most important things for us. So if a guy doesn't answer his subjective monitoring, he won't participate in the workout. He will get, as we said, he will get punished, right? The next thing is that we're showing them the Omegawave unit and tell them that this is where they trust. And that's why the guys are so anxious if I can use the word, to you see the results of their Omegawave measurement. When they complete it, they keep asking me, "How was it, coach? How was it? Am I good to go?" And this shows that they trust the Omegawave as well. The Omegawave shows us, because you can see it in the subjective monitoring, but you can't see it the Omegawave. That's why it shows us how unprofessional a guy could be. If he's not getting if he's getting bad measurements, and we know that his measurements are not aligned with the intensity of the workout or with the intensity of the stimuli that we've been given to him, we know that he might have not slept.
Have you had any athletes who, even after using Omegawave or subjective even for a few months, just said, "No more. I don't want to be spied on. Let me just play basketball. I will do what the head coach does. Don't measure me. I don't want to be measured." And if you had one of those, how did you deal with it?
All right. Nobody has ever said that. Nobody, because they get informed and they really buy into it. They know that I'm gonna do what the best for them. I'm gonna treat them with the best way, as long as they keep being professional and do all the things that they have to do. They trust the process, they trust me, they trust the club, so they know that if this is something that I've chosen for them, is the best thing around. Plus, that the Omegawave now is getting really huge, and they know all the stories about the NBA and stuff. They know all the stories about the UFC. So now they're thinking that even professional guys use it, so it should be good. But they get really informed about it. So I've never faced such a thing.
Wow, I have to applaud you, and I'm really impressed by this, because it's not common to hear this from a team.
Yeah, and Mikhail, to actually tell you the truth, the guys when they're feeling like crap, they ask to get measured.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they ask to get measured. Just like yesterday, a guy comes to me. He says, I've done all those things. I've done my questionnaire. I've done my pre-training routine. I still feel like crap, and I think I have to get measured. Can I? And I said, no, you can't. No, you can't. No.
And why not?
Because I've measured him. Before his individual training. It's complicated. He had an individual training. I measured him before his individual training. He was his training. His morning training was lifting, and it was good. We didn't get the intensity up, so it was his program for this week. So I told him, you're not fatigued. You didn't do anything that could get you in this state. Did you sleep? Oh, yes, I slept. Did you eat? Yeah, I ate. So okay, you're good to go.
All right.
You can't get the guys always thinking that they have to rely on tools. The most important thing is that you gotta help them recognize the signals of their bodies and manage their brains. Mm-hmm. It's all about cognitive reactions. So this is what we're trying to teach them.
Now, the other, once again, the peculiarities of team sports is obviously the often delicate relationship between the medical and strength and conditioning staff and the head coach. Meaning, whenever you do collect data on the athletes, the question is, how do I communicate this to the head coach so that the head coach can hopefully design, program better sport-specific training, even future games? Now, can you explain a bit more what's your relationship in the team with the head coach, and how do you communicate not just Omegawave data, but the whole data on the athlete so that it helps the coach?
All right. So I told you before that we have created an algorithm with a three-step approach. Now, all these are on the internet. We've created an internet platform, an application that every coach can log in and see how their athletes are, how the fatigue levels of their athletes. Because Every day, I measure 28 guys, and I'm getting the information on the data on this platform. So we do not, most of the times, we do not talk even. The coaches know that when they get into the platform, who of their how many guys are going to have available. Now, when I measure a guy before his training that he's been fatigued in the subjective monitoring and he can't train, I just inform him the last 50 minutes before practice. This is something difficult for them to manage, but they trust me. They trust the medical staff. We have all come into an agreement about it. They know that I have to measure the guys before training, so they are always, ready if I hold the player back. So yes, we've talked about this many times with the coaches, and the truth is that it's hard because coaches want all of their guys available 100% of the times, and they want to know how the intensity is going to be. They want them all out. Yeah.
Can you give a concrete example of how the head coach changed basketball training, based on Omegawave or the data you have on players?
Yes. It was a game. We had a game. We had a game last week. We played against Real Madrid and Red Star in our under 16 team. And next day we had a practice. So that was our schedule. So I measured all the guys. We measured all the guys with subjective monitoring. They were fatigued, 80% of the team. Now I got all those players something like 1 hour and a half before, because our team has some dormitories and our players live next to the court. So I measured all the guys with the Omegawave stuff, with the Omegawave unit, and the Omegawave unit showed that the players' fatigue is they were not ready to go. They were really fatigued. Now I communicated with the head coach, and I said, we have to go down with the volume, first of all, and the intensity should go down as well. And that's how we cut the training of that day. We got into some shooting and some half-court situations. And this is how the whole training of the team changed. But you try to keep what you want to work, but with a lower intensity and with a lower volume.
Well, it also sounds that your head coach is very, very open to new ideas and new concepts, which sometimes in team sports is not the case.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I mean, sometimes you can't influence who the club hires as head coach, and they come with their philosophy and their thinking, and it's sometimes impossible to change. But you're fortunate, I guess, in that realm. But if you had to tell your colleague in team sports in another team how to communicate this kind of data, how to work with the head coach with this kind of data, what would be your number one recommendation?
All right. So to really clarify things up, coaches, the head coaches are not, they don't like technology. They don't like, all those new things, because most of them have a lot of years of experience. So they really trust their eyes. They trust their eyes. They do not trust, a unit that can identify the fatigue levels and or a subjective monitoring tool. They don't trust them. Now, if they trust their guy, if they trust their performance coach, everything is a bit easier. In our club, we're working 3 years with the same coaches. I've been working for 3 years now with the same coaches, and it's a bit easier because for the last 6 months that we're using the Omegawave and all this algorithm with the Countermovement jump and the subjective monitoring tools. I've informed them, and I've told them that I persuade them that it's the best for their athletes. And if an athlete isn't healthy, he can't get into the court. If he can't get into the court, he won't get any better. So his job won't won't be done. Now, if I had to say one thing, I'd say that they really have to let the coaches know, inform the coaches what these things are, what the Omegawave truly does, and how it will help them actually get their job better and get the results, get better results. Because we are all working for the same purpose. We all talk the same language, but they should inform them beforehand. Not just throw, this is a unit that will tell you when to stop training or when to start training. No, they have to. First of all, they have to study the unit. They have to care about the unit. They have to put it to the test. And if they believe it, then the coach will believe it. Yeah,
sure.
I don't know if I cover it. I don't know, man.
Yeah. No, good. Then if we talk about what we measure, essentially brain and cardiac system and regulation part, have you so far seen any distinct patterns or seen that, okay, with my basketball players, I see more fatigue coming from the brain, or I see more fatigue coming from the heart, or can you make any of these kind of statements so far?
Yes, it depends. It really depends on the guy. Yes, we have some differences, but it really depends on the guy. Some of the guys that are really stressed, when they get into the court, or the coach keeps yelling at them throughout the whole training, the fatigue of the brain is really up. Now, when I train the guys and I run them for something like hard intervals or stuff, yes, you could say that it's a different kind of fatigue. But to tell you the truth, this is actually really interesting, because the guys that do not, how can I say it, they do not understand the game well, and the coach is going hard on them, the fatigue of their brains go up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And we're talking with the guys afterwards. I'm talking to the guys, because we really talk a lot with our players, and I can see that. I can see that they are in a different mood. They're something like depressed. And this is something that now we're exploring it with the Omegawave. This is the next step for us. So you just hear it,
When you've seen this brain fatigue on Omegawave, what have been your key recovery activities to get the guys back as soon as possible?
Yeah. All right. So we're talking. First of all, we're talking a little with the guys. Now we're trying to get them relaxed. We're trying to explain to them how stressful training or a training environment like ours can be, and this is something that they do not go through just by themselves. But we are a team, and we are always supporting them. Now, our manager talks to them. Our psychologist talks to them if they need to. Yeah, if we got a sports psychologist that really supports our program, and if they need to, they talk to her.
Perfect.
We can get the guys out once a week or once in 15 days. We get the guys out just to relax and say we're not. And this is the truth. We're not only interested about basketball. We're just interested in creating high values in them. We're interested in developing the character of the guys. So if we lose a guy's brain throughout the whole process, we're actually done more harm than good.
Exactly. Hey, sounds really comprehensive, really excellent how you approach the athletes. You actually have hired a sports psychologist, which is great as well. Really impressed by what you guys are doing. A few questions that I still have. can you quantify or can you tell us what have been the results you've seen, either sports-specific performance or physical performance or injury-related issues that you've seen thanks to Omegawave and the other metrics that you use to manage these players?
All right. So why someone should buy new technologies? It's obvious. Things. I'm talking about basketball, but I assume it's all the same because the training intensity goes up. Basketball training is going up in volume sometimes, or it's going up in density. And we have a lot of recovery tools, but this doesn't correlate because we have more injuries and more serious injuries. We have more monitoring tools, we have more recovery tools, but the injuries are happening. Are more. We have more injuries, and they are more serious now. All strength and conditioning coaches and all the coaches should know when a guy is ready to go, because as I told you before, it's not only about surviving a workout, it's getting the most out of your players. So now for the injuries part, it's not about injury prevention, it's about injury reduction. We want to reduce injuries. If you're training and you're at a high level, especially with the younger guys, you should expect that some guys will get injured. But we do not have major sports injuries. And actually, all the injuries that might occur are not at a muscle level, are at a bone level, because the guys now they might be strong, they might be fast, but their bone mass is not ready yet. Mm. It's not like an adult, and all those, those bone fractures and stuff is something that you can't avoid if a young guy is participating in high level basketball or training. But how a guy is improving with the Omegawave or with all our measurements, yes, we get the most out of them. We get quality workouts. We don't get into the court if the guys are not going to win something from the workout. I'm not getting them into the gym. I'm gonna give them a day off if they're not ready to go. Today I had an individual practice in the gym with 3 players. And I got the Omegawave measurement with them, and one guy was not ready to lift. So I just had an endurance workout with him. I don't want to push my athletes to do something because, don't get me wrong, I really push them. I push them hard, but I don't want them to go into something that they don't believe. If a guy is feeling like he doesn't want to lift a single dumbbell, I won't
force him to.
I won't toss him, to clean 100 kilos. That's where the Omegawave comes into, and I measure everything. We collect all the data, and we decide what's the best training for them at that particular moment or that particular day.
Have you seen any improvement in top player availability for game?
All right. I'll give you a practical example. We have a guy that is 16 years old. He's participating in the men's team and in the under 16 and the under 18 team. They played a match, and he played with the men's team against a top level basketball team here in Greece, and he played something about 15 minutes. Now he goes back. He comes back. He played. He came back, and we had a game with the under 18 team. Coach said he shouldn't play, and we said let's measure him with the Omegawave and see how it goes. I measured him, and he is excellent. He's in an excellent condition, 7 out of 7. So I'm telling the coach that he can play another 18 to 20 minutes with no problem. And he said, are you sure? And I said, I trust the process. Yeah. So, so let the guy play. She played 25, no problem. The next day, we had an early morning practice. I measured him before practice. He was ready to go, and he had all the practice done. Now, this is how we implement it, and this is how it reflects on our games and how much time a guy plays. I don't know if I explained it right, but...
Sure, I got the picture. All right, my last question is really simple. Now, imagine you had to talk to a new client, new user of Omegawave. Doesn't matter if it's a team sport coach or individual sport coach. What would be your main advice in terms of do this first, do this kind of thing, process, look at this data, whatever it might be, and then on the other hand, avoid this in your first 3-4 months of use?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I would say that you should measure what you can understand. You should measure what you can evaluate in the least amount of time, and you should measure something that has a scientific background. Now, the first thing is to ask the player how he feels, or monitoring a wellness questionnaire. The second, well, actually, what we do, the second step would be the Omegawave, and this would be what you should rely upon. And the third step would be a more of a functional assessment, just like a counter-movement jump or a drop jump. A lot of guys are using drop jump too, to decide. But from the three of them, I would certainly choose and trust the Omegawave, because I've seen that through practical experience that it has never made a mistake that would cost the team money or would cost a tournament or a game or the nationals. And this is huge, because if you can imagine, because we got a lot of assessments, we got a lot of data. Trust me, we use a lot of things, but the Omegawave is on top for me, and as long as it's on top for me, is on top for the coach, and as long it goes on top for the whole team and for the guys. A lot of times the coach has delayed the training to start because I didn't have the Omegawave data to inform him. Yeah, and this is something that we have gone a long way. Our under 18 coach Andreas Kisapidis has delayed his training a lot of times because he wanted to be informed on the Omegawave analysis data. Yeah. Yes.
Impressive.
Yeah, we're talking a lot with the coaches, and I don't know if they're trusting the Omegawave or if they're trusting me. I hope they trust me and the Omegawave then.
I think it's you. You've done a great job. Excellent. Thank you very much, Panos. I truly appreciate your time and your comments.
Me too.
I hope all the listeners and viewers of this interview get something out of it. Now, actually, I lied to you. Last question wasn't the last. Actually, the last question is, anybody who is listening to this, if they want to get in touch with you and talk to you, learn about from you, how can they get in touch?
All right. First of all, my email. I got an email. They can email me at any time. But they can visit our new facilities in Greece, in Patras. It's a really nice place. It's an awesome place. It's the first home of Promitheas in the world, and they can visit us, see how we work, see the whole process, and we'd love to have a talk with all the guys. We learn from everywhere. We talk with anyone, and we try to view things from other perspectives, because This is how we're going to evolve our program and our players. So anyone who would like to visit or have a talk, please email me, and we will be available anytime.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Panos. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.